Hey, what's going on, guys? Blunt Guts here. This is a Watch Our Realms video. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. I really appreciate it. I am going to be breaking down this weekend's banners, and oh god, what a weekend of banners we are going to have. It's going to be a fun one this weekend. I am excited. I wish I had more resources. We got some great heroes entering the fray here. I'm going to talk about the banners in a second. Before I do, take a second, click that thumbs up button to subscribe to my channel if you do want to see my stuff going forward. I would really appreciate it. It's a great free way that you can support my channel. So, thank you in advance if that is something you can do. If you do enjoy my content, it would be great. Really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's talk about the banners. So let's talk about this weekend's banners. We've essentially got 3 different banners that are going to be coming this weekend. The 2X for both Divine and Rare Summons is going to be here. That's here almost every single weekend. Nothing flashy about the banner, but it is better now than it used to be, now that we do know that all of the heroes in their respective pools do have the same chance to be summoned, meaning that no longer do you have to worry about summoning on a 2X, meaning that you're going to get a lot of the more common and thereby less desirable heroes. So this is better than it used to be. As far as accounts are concerned, the sweet spot for these banners is really early and mid-game, maybe late game as well, depending on your roster. I think end-game folks were mostly chasing particular heroes that are going to enhance the areas of the game that we are focused on, so I don't know that the 2X is really the best bet for you, especially on a good weekend like this, but ultimately sometimes quantity is better than quality, so, have at it. Personally, though, I am going to be spending my Rare and Divine Summons on this banner right here, Numera and Valeriya. Oh, baby. Good heroes. Valeriya is a little power crept at this point. She's not used quite as much. It used to be the single target arena queen, but she is no longer really featured all that much there. Valderon came in and kind of swooped up her spot, but she is still very powerful. But unquestionably, the featured hero on this banner is Numera. Now, Numera is part of the poison comp that is going to be releasing over the next couple of weekends. She is a single target anti-air fighter, piercer, esotericist, dual faction beast. Absolute beast, the premier damage dealer in the poison comp, whatever you want to call it. It's not a faction, but the poison themed units that do gel together particularly well. She is the highest damage dealer among them, and she is phenomenal with or without her poisoner colleagues. Let's go take a look at both Valeriya and Numera's Awakenings. So I am unfortunately not feeling all that great. I'm sick along with everybody else in my household, so I think I'm going to try to keep these a little brief. I always say that. We'll see if that actually happens. Just a little bit about Numera before we do get into it. She is, like I said, a single target piercer, esotericist, dual faction, anti-air fighter, really strong, low ultimate cost, does some true damage as well as poisons. She is a poison exploder, which if you've played other games, Raid in particular comes to mind. Poison exploders can be really powerful, and they certainly enhance what poisons can do. So I do love kind of converts that damage over time effect into a direct damage strike. The A1 during the ultimate increases damage by 25%. That's awesome. It's a 900 rage cost ultimate. If she is in an esotericist comp, that's going to be reduced even further. On top of that, she does have rage regen inherent in her kit, so she's going to get back to that ultimate very quickly, and the ultimate hits like a truck, especially when you've got poisons in the comp. So really great to see a 25% increase right there. On top of that, you're going to guarantee a critical hit with Grimthorn Spike and Toxic Surge. Honestly, this doesn't move the needle for me. You're going to be running her at 100% crit rate anyway, so I think that's kind of a non-factor. But the 25% damage bonus to her ultimate is very appreciated because she does have a big hitting ultimate. The A2 is plus 300 attack. That's great. Base attack, of course, gets multiplied by all of your attack bonus, main stats and substats on your gears, so you're going to get more than 300 attack out of this. The A3, when attacking enemies, ignores 20% magic resist. This is the big one. Each time Nature's Wrath is cast, this effect increases by an extra 5%, up to an extra 25% increase. So after the 5th cast of the ultimate, which again, she will be casting very quickly, she's going to have 45% magic resist ignore, which is great, especially in long boss fights. But even still, the 20% magic resist is massive for her. That really helps out, especially against endgame content where you are seeing these increasing magic resist values. The A3, in my opinion, is by far the best awakening of all the ones that Numera does have. It's the most impactful based on my testing, particularly in a poison comp. If you're looking for a logical stopping point, that is probably it, but let's talk about the A4 and the A5. The A4 is plus 8% penetration, kind of going back to that same theme. Being able to ignore more magic resist is only going to enhance her damage, particularly considering the A3. The A5 heals the hero for 20% of the true damage dealt by Grimthorn Roots. This is great. Self-sustain is nice. I see her primarily being a boss killer, and most of the boss damage is large single hits, right, or AoE hits. This is going to help you survive through a lot of small hits. It's not going to help you survive if you get hit for your entire health bar. So I don't know that I love this, but it is what it is. It also doesn't enhance damage at all, which is the thing that I think I'm most critical about. So for me, I think the A3 is the logical stopping point on this hero. If you are going to try to max her value, max that out, this is the place to stop. One thing I did not mention about Numera is that she does bring 30% damage reduction, which is a key component to all boss fights right now, and really, I'm sure, into the future as well. So she will kind of check that box for you, whether you're running her as an esotericist or a piercer. She's really solid damage in either comp, but she not only competes, but actually exceeds the big boys, and I'm talking about Sun Wukong, I'm talking about Hex, I'm talking about these really top-end damage dealers. She actually exceeds their damage when she is in a poison comp alongside Nastya, alongside Vorn. If you can stack a bunch of poison, she's going to be your lady. She's going to do some work for you. I will have a video out tomorrow where I do break down her damage as well as the poison comp's damage in general. I'll talk about her as a piercer, so you can get an idea of how that breaks down as well. But based on what I've seen, this A3 is very nice. Very, very nice. Let's go talk about Valeriya. All right, so Valeriya is a Chaos Nightmare dual faction unit. She is a heavy hitter. She hits very, very hard. And she's being power crept again by a lot of other fighters, and she does only have 1 tile range, although I think she has 2 tile range during her ultimate, if I'm not mistaken. So let's go take a look at that just so I can confirm that before I say that. Yep, 2 tile range you can see up here during the ultimate, which is nice. She's hard to use because when she does trigger her ultimate, she starts losing 10% of current HP every single attack that she does, and so her health drops down low like a lot of Chaos units do. She does have a heal component to kind of keep herself up, but at the same time, it's hard to use her for her intended role, which seems to primarily be boss fights because her health is always sitting relatively low. I haven't really done a comparison of her versus some of the more recent fighters, but she used to be, if you could use her appropriately, like far and away one of the best units in the games. I wouldn't mind getting extra copies of her. She's a powerful hero in her own right, even if she's not quite as powerful as she once was. So the A1 during the ultimate increases attack speed by 100. That's nice, nothing game breaking though. Plus 5% attack on the A2. Again, that's base attack, just like when I was talking about Numera, so that will be multiplied by all of your attack bonus stats on your gear. The A3 is during the ultimate ignores 20% of enemies' defense. This is nice, but when you put it up against something like what I showed you on Numera, who gains a total of up to 45% magic resist ignore in that case, but either way, this does not really shine quite as much, but it is a very impactful awakening, and it does really help her out. Definitely something that would be great to have on your Valeriya if you do use her anywhere. And then the A4 is plus 8% crit rate. This is not great in my opinion. It does give you more flexibility with gearing. And the A5 during the ultimate, there is a 50% chance to accumulate 2 stacks of power of the sword for each attack, up to 12 stacks in total. So normally you have a 100% chance to get 1 stack of power of the sword for each strike that you do during the ultimate. This gives you the ability to get 2 half of the time that you strike, so that's nice. Basically, it's a 50% increase to your power of the sword stack generation. Each stack is going to boost the damage of the final strike that she does at the end of her ultimate by 50%. So the more stacks you can get, the more powerful that big, massive hit at the end is going to be. Honestly, I would say the A3 is a great place to stop, but I really wouldn't be shooting for any Valeriya Awakenings. Be happy if you get them because she is a good hero, but she's not relevant really anywhere right now, and so I just don't think it really makes sense to be like pursuing her. Let's go talk about the Ancient Banner that's coming this weekend. All right. Controversial one here. I think there's a lot of folks who are not all that high on Nastya. There's questions about whether or not she's better than Sulkinins. I honestly don't think that she is necessarily better than Sulkinins. I think she performs a very similar function. Within the context of a poison team, she's very, very strong. And I think that there is a good chance that going forward, this poison comp is going to be very powerful in a number of different areas. So I think that she is probably around equal to Sulkinins right now. Gives you added flexibility. There's another team that can take on Abyss 1, but I also think that if you're forward thinking that she is probably going to be good in other places as well. Let's talk about her awakenings and how impactful they may be. Nastya is a phenomenal hero. I really do like this hero a lot, but she is limited. I think she's mainly going to be useful for boss fights. She is an enabler for all of your other poison champions. She provides this acute poisoning debuff, which does increase poison and toxic surge damage taken by 40%, which is really nice. That's toxic surge damage is Numera's poison popping skill. So that is going to increase the damage that Numera does. That's why having Nastya is so fantastic. Now, with that said, Valeriya, the epic version of Nastya, does have this acute poisoning on her A1 as well. So you don't need Nastya in order to get this. However, the Lord skill on Nastya is ridiculous here. So obviously, you're going to get 15% basic attributes. That is true for every single legendary lord in the game. Beyond that, you are going to reduce faction team members' skill cost by 25%. That's great as well. This is the big one here, though. Increases faction team members' damage against targets inflicted with debuffs by 5% per debuff, up to 40% increase. Oh my god. So you can have a consistent 40% damage increase, assuming you can maintain 8 debuffs on a target, which if you're running a bunch of poisoners is completely possible. With Nastya, Vorn, and Numera, I had more than 8 debuffs on the target a lot of the time. And again, I could have brought in other units that were bringing consistent debuffs that would have guaranteed me to have 8+ debuffs up on the target at all times. This is a huge Lord skill. If you can maintain 8 debuffs on the target, there's an argument to be made that this is the best single target Lord bonus in the game, in my opinion. I will have a damage testing video on the poison comp out either tomorrow or Friday, so do tune into that. I'm going to break down the difference between Nastya and, again, Valeriya, her epic equivalent, and it's pretty striking. She does work. Let me just say that. Very good hero. I'm hoping I get her. I don't have a ton of resources, but I'm crossing my fingers. We're going to see what happens. Let's talk about the Awakenings here. So the A1, each hit of the ultimate inflicts stun on targets with poison. That is nice. It's going to help you out in Guild Boss 2, of course. When activated, applies poison immunity to allies within 2,000. Wouldn't be surprised if there's some more poison mechanics in future content as well, where this does come into play. So that is really nice. I think she's the only unit in the game that can provide poison immunity, if I'm not mistaken, but correct me in the comments if I'm incorrect about that. The A2 is plus 300 attack for her. That's great. She's also going to increase faction team members' penetration by 5%, which is ridiculously good for all of her esotericist colleagues. The A3, if only one target exists in range, increases acute poisoning inflicted by talent to 70%. So it's typically 40%. But when she does get the A3, this poison damage and toxic surge damage is going to go up all the way up to 70%. Really helps out Numera in particular, but is going to help out Vorn, going to help out Nastya's damage as well. I did say that Valeriya does get this acute poisoning debuff as well. She does not get the big version, the 70% version of it. So this is something that is unique, at least at the moment, to Nastya. The A4 is plus 8% penetration. More magic resist ignore is great, especially against boss fights, which is where I primarily see her being used. And then the A5 deals 25% increased damage to targets inflicted with poison. This should essentially be a straight 25% damage increase, because you are always going to be attacking a target inflicted with poison when you are Nastya. So yeah, really solid hero. I know people are wondering whether or not she's worth pursuing, and personally, I think getting at least a copy of her is really great. The more copies of her you can get, the better. She's not going to be a game changer, in my opinion, like an Ingrid or like a Pope or Valderant. Well, Valderant. She might be on the level of a Valderant, honestly. I think her specialty is largely going to be, again, in boss fights. So we're talking about Guild Boss 2, Guild Boss 1, Abyss 1. We're talking about codexes, things like that, and whatever future content they do put out. There's also hints that the Abyss 2 difficulty, which will be released at some point in the, I think, relatively near future, that the Poisoners are going to be very strong in that. So, you know, we'll have to wait and see exactly how it unfolds, but I do think that she is really good, and she's just like brimming with potentials. Because aside from just being an enabler, she does put out very solid damage herself. So that's my opinion. I am looking forward to it. Let's go talk about Sargak, who is probably the less exciting of these two heroes, but is one of my favorites as well. Let's just look at him for a second, because I think he is one of the coolest looking heroes in the game, with these weird, like, he's got torches on his back, he's got spikes on his back. Why are they there? Who knows? Just because. Intimidation factor. That's right. That's right, buddy. Yep. I just love this character. I've only got him A0. I'd love to get a few more copies of him. Another reason why I am happy to pull on the Nastya banner. I do think that Sargak is just... he's a niche hero, but he's a really powerful one as well. So I'd love to get Awakenings on him. Let's go through them right now. So the A1, during the effect of Bloodshed Fury, if the hero's HP is below 50%, additionally increases attack by 10% and reduces defense by 10%. It's weird that they wanted to toss in that reduces defense by 10% in there as well, because his defense is not high. It's like, this is going to be a very minimal buff, but it's like, yeah, we got to give you just a little bit of negative in there as well. Extra 10% attack. Basically, during the ultimate, he is almost always going to have less than 50% HP, unless you're running him with a healer that is going to top him off, which you shouldn't be. So he's essentially going to get an extra 10% attack, which is a massive buff for an A1. The A2 plus 300 attack. Again, base attack. This is big for marksman in particular. Sargak, let's look at his base attack here. His base attack is 3846 at A0. So this is like an 8% bump to his base attack. Really, really big. Again, multiplied by your attack bonus substats, blah, 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 all that. Really, really good. The A3, Blood Spirit, deals 50% increased damage to elites and bosses. Blood Spirit is a proccable ability. This is a huge one. This is a really, really big one, especially for a GVG, where some of the demon soldiers are classified as elites or bosses. In particular, I'm thinking of Maw, the demon captain, who is super powerful, and this is going to help Sargak just chew through his health bar really, really quickly. This is a massive one for Sargak. The A4, crit rate plus 8%. I already told you how I feel about this awakening. Crit rate, it's fine. It's just not great, in my opinion, unless it really enables you to use an exceptional piece of gear that you could not use before. And the A5, when any unit, including allies and enemies in range, dies, increases attack by 1%. Attack will be increased by an extra 1% if the unit is killed by the hero. The increase is capped at 20%. So you're going to get 20% max no matter what, but you will get 2% per unit killed, assuming that he's the one that does deliver the killing blows. It's an extra 20% attack, assuming that you can kill enough units. It's not going to help you out in boss fights. I like this, but it's not going to be useful everywhere because you need to be clearing like wave content or someplace where you are going to have like AoE damage or something like that. Personally, in my opinion, the A3 is a logical stopping point. I do like the A3 here. That increased damage to some of the tankier units in the game is really, really nice, and it does open up his damage potential against bosses. I have noticed just in GVG that A3 plus Sargaks are kind of where they start to do crazy things. And so this is where I'd love to end up with my Sargak. I don't think it's going to happen this weekend, but hey, you never know. Why not? Dream big. That's what I'm going to be doing. I do think this is a really big weekend. We've got the Poison comp being released. They clearly, and by they I mean the developers, clearly want this comp to succeed. So I think they are going to make sure that this comp is viable in a lot of places. On top of that, they probably have other content that this comp is designed to tackle that is yet to come. I know for a fact from my own testing that they are very confident in Abyss 1. So I do think if you can get Nastya and Numera and or Vorn, then you're going to be in a very good spot for Abyss 1. Getting all three is really the ideal, but again, it's a hard ask to release 3 heroes all at once and then say, go get all of them. And they're only going to be maxed out if they're all together. That's a tough ask. Which brings me to my next point. I do want to talk a little bit about Vorn here. Just logically speaking, he's in all the artwork for this Toxic Outbreak event. And the Toxic Outbreak does run through the end of next weekend. So you'd assume there's a Poisoner coming next weekend as well. Vorn is the one of the 3 legendary units in the Poisoner kind of meta or comp or whatever you want to call it that is coming, that is not included this weekend. So we have to assume he's coming next week, and I think it's a pretty safe assumption. And he's really good. Damage-wise, he does not do as much damage as Numera. I'd say he's probably about on par with Nastya as their awakenings increase. At one point, Vorn will be a little higher. At one point, Nastya will be a little bit higher. But again, tune into my testing video so you can see specifically how the different awakenings impact these heroes' DPS. That will be out tomorrow or on Friday. Vorn's calling card is that he does increase the damage for 2 allies at A0 and 3 allies at A1 to shields. He essentially does what Setrim does, but he provides the buff in perpetuity. So you're going to get a 30% increase to shield damage for the 2 or 3, depending on awakening, units with the highest attack on the field. Typically, it's going to be fighters. If you're somebody who's running a high awakening Wukong and Kagiri in a Nightmare or Watchguard comp in order to take down the physical shield in Abyss 1, then that's going to really help you out because it's easy to stack attack on those 2 units because they have really high base attack. Vorn is really good, but he's especially good because he provides such a massive increase to what is the hardest thing to overcome in the Abyss 1 fight and likely will be in the Abyss 2 fight as well, let's be honest. You could make the argument that even though he does less damage than Numera, that he might be more important. Honestly, I don't know. Numera just, in the Poison comp, especially when you can get Numera and Nastya up to A3+, Numera just does so much damage. It's bonkers. And because she does true damage and magic damage and all this, it is very sustainable in higher level boss fights that I think that Numera is going to be like triple S tier long term in this comp. She's good otherwise, but she's great in this comp. So before I finished my testing, I was thinking that I was going to be kind of skipping Numera and going for Vorn, but after seeing the numbers that Numera put out, I think I'm going to have to go for Numera. Hopefully I can get a couple of copies of her and feel like I did my job, and then I can hopefully get a copy of Vorn next weekend. I don't know. I'm low on resources. I think many of us probably are, which is why they're releasing this stuff right now. On top of that, we got the anniversary coming, right? This is what they're doing a month before the anniversary. What's coming next? I don't know. I've rambled on long enough, and I don't feel well, so I am going to go. Sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think about this. Are you guys pulling this weekend? Are you going for Poisoners? Are you waiting for other heroes? Let me know. Let me know what your plans are. I'm curious. I do know that all of the heroes on the banners this weekend are quite good. So if you do decide to pull, there's really no way you can go wrong. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Good luck. Like and subscribe. All that jazz. I will catch you all next time.